Welcome. I am Emily Ramsey, and this presentation is on Celebgate 2014. So, table of contents. No real information here, just an overview of each slide, what each one's going to be going over. So, what is Celebgate? Brief explanation. What happened? More on what happened, reactions, including the reactions of both the public and the victims, aka the celebrities, um, what was speculated to have happened, as in what people thought caused this leak, and then what really did happen, so the truth behind it. Um, was this preventable? How may it have been prevented? Some of the consequences of the breach, and then finally, what I believe is most important, what we can learn and why it's still relevant now, about 3 years later. Just an overview of what happened to get us started. On August 31st of 2014, the website 4chan, an image board website, posted private photos of celebrities. Many of these photos were nude or partially nude. They were very clearly private, often taken in celebrities' homes with their significant others. About 500 different celebrities were affected, and most of these celebrities were women. It was just under 500. And in the media, this occurrence was nicknamed Celebgate, which is what I've decided to refer to it as here. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the reactions to this breach, how it was perceived by both the public and celebrities, just to kind of draw attention to the contrast between the two. So as was touched on in the previous slide, the public, the everyday internet users, heard about the photos and they began reposting them. They even doctored them to make them more humorous, and all in all, didn't take it too seriously. This this behavior suggests that most people really didn't realize the levity of the situation. Sometimes celebrities get dehumanized, and I think that's what happened here. This began to change a little bit once celebrities began to speak out and make their own statements. Many of these statements were made on Twitter, the social media platform that allows people to comment on quickly on what's going on. So celebrities, their reactions, some claimed that the photos were not real, claimed that they had been photoshopped and simply were not theirs. But others were outraged. They did make it clear that they were their real pictures, and they called the leak creepy. A representative for Jennifer Lawrence said this was a flagrant violation of privacy. And many celebrities said that they would like to press charges once the responsible party was found out. So now there's a little bit of a shift because Twitter is suspending the accounts of anyone who reposted the images, and the public begins to sympathize with the celebrities. Um, there is definitely a change when celebrities start to make statements, but I think it's likely that people realized that this could happen to anyone. So people started to think, wait a minute, if celebrities had their private photos stolen without their approval, without their okay, maybe something like this could happen to me. And they begin to consider their own privacy and wonder if it was possible for hackers to get a hold of, frankly, their nude pictures. So now we're getting into how this happened. We've talked about from the time the pictures were posted, and now we're going to go back and talk about how the leak happened in the first place. So within the first couple days after the breach, the public turned their attention to the iCloud. It was relatively new at the time, and people still had a lot of questions about it. So as was mentioned, we, the public, we got scared about our own personal data, and a lot of articles were raising questions. How did this happen? One of the worries was that the iCloud was hacked, or basically that there was a breach in an Apple system, whether it be the iCloud or iPhone data. What the public assumed was hackers got into the cloud somehow and stole all of these pictures at one time. Here's what really happened. Turns out it was not a failure on Apple's part, at least not exactly. There was no detectable false entry into the iCloud. What happened was hackers gradually got access to usernames, passwords, answers to security questions. Over time, they got this info. They targeted celebrities and got their photos from the iCloud's backup storage. It's reported that there were even exchanges of these photos for months before the big 4chan leak. So these perps got into the iCloud storage with information like usernames and passwords, but how did they get this information? So one of the ways was they used phishing emails. It was really a relatively simple scam. They set up email accounts. One court document reveals one of these emails was Apple privacy security. So they intentionally tricked the victims into giving away their information. Maybe they said, we have a question about your account, or we need to update your account, and then they required the entry of a password and username. Another possible way they got into the iCloud storage was brute force guessing, just meaning that a program is able to guess passwords extremely quickly, repeatedly, and almost indefinitely until they get it right. How could this leak have been prevented? As we discussed, it was brought to light in court that the phishing scams gave hackers access to the iCloud of many different celebrities. So that means in order for it to have been prevented altogether, each individual scam would have had to be prevented. Phishing scams usually are successful due to people not being informed or being generally careless about giving away their information. Just noting that in this case, the celebrities themselves may have given away the info, or possibly people who worked for them. The next slide will have more information on how to watch out for phishing scams in general. Here is what we can learn. Just a few other quick notes. First of all, Apple did deny responsibility for the leak because their iCloud was working properly. It was not hacked by anything they could detect. It was simply that these criminals got a hold of usernames and passwords. So even after that, even after the initial leak, there were many other people who perpetuated the damage by reposting the images and doctoring them to make them into funny jokes. So in this case, the general public is somewhat responsible for the damage. They didn't hack the accounts themselves, but they did continue to exploit these images, often after they found out celebrities did not consent to them. What we can learn from it. I absolutely sympathize with the victims of these hacks, but it's true that sometimes we need things like this to happen in order to increase awareness on the issue. In this case, the leak of photos made us realize, one, that these are human beings just like us, and two, because they are human just like us, we are also at risk for this type of crime. We can also learn from the incident because usernames and passwords were retrieved in a phishing scam. The lesson is, be on the lookout for suspicious emails that request your personal info. What were the consequences? Even though it happened 3 years ago now, 3.5 years ago, I thought this occurrence was relevant because privacy issues of a sexual nature are consistently in the news, whether it's in regard to people hacking photos or other forms of these crimes like revenge porn. There aren't a lot of laws right now protecting people, but lawyers are starting to specialize in revenge porn and people are becoming aware. So I'll keep this brief, but I just wanted to say that this is a very serious issue. In no way am I trying to make light of it, and I personally believe that this was not only a violation of privacy, but also a sex crime. But overall, I think Celebgate 2014 was important and is still important to this conversation because it was such a huge hack, really a bunch of smaller hacks as we discussed, and it affected hundreds of people, mostly women. So it kind of set a precedent for how we feel about these hacks, and the prosecution of those who were responsible also set an example. I hope that people who searched for these celebrity photos after they heard about the hack did regret it and came to realize that these actions were wrong and the hack affected and hurt a lot of people. Thank you for watching, and here's a list of my sources. These articles are where I got all the information for this presentation, other than the opinions, which I got from my own brain.